This is Andrew from DeFiancy. All right, guys, we're just going to jump straight into this per usual. Right now, we're looking at Bitcoin, and we have a lot to talk about. So earlier today, if you didn't know, we had a fake ETF approval tweet that actually came from Gary Gensler's X account. Now, within about 15 minutes, Gary Gensler came out, and I'll actually show that to you, came out and said that it wasn't true. So he tweeted this tweet here. The SEC Twitter account was compromised and an unauthorized tweet was posted. The SEC has not approved the listing and trading of the spot Bitcoin exchange traded products. Okay, so that's interesting and it's kind of funny. It's embarrassing for the SEC considering that they tweeted just a few weeks ago that the only source of information on the ETF they should listen to is the SEC Twitter accounts, which is, Gary Gensler's included in there. So it's kind of ironic. But I think really what we need to look at here is what happened when that approval took place. So if you're looking, or the supposed approval, the market thought it was real for about 15 minutes before they recovered that, before Gary Gensler got control of his Twitter account and deleted that tweet. So we got to look at how the market reacted to what it thought was a real legitimate tweet because it came from Gary Gensler's account, right? So people really thought this was true, including myself. We got to see how Bitcoin reacted. So initially from the tweet, if we look at this zoomed in, we can see that we had a roughly, I think, about a 3% move up. And then after about 15 minutes or so, the market figured out it wasn't true and then it sold off. That's interesting. I mean, it's not surprising. I thought even if it was approved legitimately, I think it would have been something similar to that probably. But what really caught my eye was this ETH BTC move. So after it was known that the ETF was approved, at least when the market thought it was, ETH BTC bounced, so ETH versus Bitcoin. And this was really a very, very bullish sign for what is likely to come after this ETF approval, is that ETH is going to take over the baton. And I think that is very good because honestly, when ETH is leading Bitcoin, alts usually go wild. That's really the hardcore alt season, in my opinion. Now, let's talk a little bit about ETH, its narrative going forward, and things that will disproportionately benefit these narratives. So there's two major narratives when it comes to the ETH ecosystem, and that is the upgrade that it's going to have in probably around April or somewhere around then. It's called the Dencun upgrade, I believe it's called. That's how you pronounce it, but some people call it EIP 4844, or maybe it's EIP 4448. Might have that backwards, but anyway, it is an upgrade that significantly increases the efficiency of layer 2s. So Arbitrum, Optimism, Base, they would have lower fees and quite significantly lower fees. So that's good. And there's some other things that it does, but that's really the main benefit, I think, for users in the short term, at least. Now, there's also another narrative that I think is even more important than that narrative, and it can be quite a big, it could have a pretty big impact on the market, and that is the Eigenlayer restaking protocols. It will be going live here shortly. And if you don't know what Eigenlayer is, it is a restaking protocol, effectively. So if you know anything about staked ETH, well, anything related to staked ETH pretty much will benefit from Eigenlayer. Okay, and we could talk about that a little bit more deeper from a technical standpoint in another video. But I want to really just talk about a token in particular that's going to benefit disproportionately from this Eigenlayer restaking narrative, which is Lido. And this is like a no-brainer play, I think, over the next 3 months while this ETH ecosystem Eigenlayer restaking narrative is taking place. And obviously it has a really nice chart. So if we look at this like zoomed in, you can see it has a fantastic chart by my estimation, meaning it's broken out. It has this nice SR flip above its previous highs. This is about a 1.5 year accumulation range here. And usually when you have a big break like this, it's likely to have some sort of momentum. And I think that's great. We like technicals. I'm not really sure where this could go, just based off the chart, because it's pretty much in price discovery minus this little wick that I'm not really sure what that was. You can kind of ignore that. It's pretty much in price discovery right now. But fundamentally, I don't see why this wouldn't go significantly higher. Okay, and the reason I say that is because it has $21.7 billion under management. Okay, that's enormous when you really think about it. $21 billion, over $21 billion. Its closest competitor is MakerDAO, another project that I like a lot, and that's about 8.3. So it is just smashing it. Nothing's even close to it in terms of TVL. And it generated about $2.1 million in fees today. That is competing with Uniswap, which is a fee, giant. So this is a real protocol here that generates revenue or fees, which you could, natural extension of fees is revenue. This thing is so undervalued when you really look at it from this context, given that it has a narrative and it has really solid fundamentals. Okay, where is it going from here? I'm not really sure, but I feel like it could double or triple pretty quickly. I don't know how long that takes, but given the fundamentals, given the narrative, given the global liquidity cycle that we're in, which is coming, it's on the uptrend, global risk on environment, this is something I really like. So this is my favorite play going into the next 3 months or so. And we can see that Arbitrum, which is another ETH beta, is doing well. It's in price discovery also. It broke out of its previous high set back in April of last year, and now it's just it's in price discovery. Who knows where it will go? But this is another ETH beta. But I like Lido a little bit better, to be honest, given the fundamentals and how much smaller Lido is than something like Arbitrum. See, Lido has a 3.8 roughly billion dollar fully diluted value. Okay. And if you look at something like Arbitrum, which it's a layer 2, and it's hard to say how much that really is worth, but it has about a $19 billion fully diluted value. So I feel like, look, I get it. Lido is an application. Arbitrum is a layer 2, but I feel like layer 2s might be more diluted than something like Lido, which is completely dominant. Lido has really no serious competitor. And some people will say that Arbitrum doesn't, but Arbitrum really does have competitors that could catch up pretty quickly. There's a dozen or so layer 2s that are seemingly pretty serious. So Lido is undervalued by my estimation by quite a bit, but I like Arbitrum. I think it's a very nice layer 2. It's fast, it's cheap, a very competent team. But these are ETH betas, okay? Just remember that when we're talking about Lido, when we're talking about Arbitrum, or if we're talking about something like Optimism, these are ETH betas. And it might be that at some point Uniswap, those might be ETH betas, but they've really lagged this rally so far over the last few weeks and months. So I do expect for things like Aave and Uniswap to gain some to do quite well, but it's not clear to me that they would do better than Lido, given that the Eigenlayer restaking narrative is really specific to staking protocols. Okay, I think that's all I really want to put out today, guys. Until next time, happy hunting, friends.